What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock and what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to break down what happened during earnings, why NIO saw a very nice pump in the morning. Right after the market opened, NIO pumped pretty hard. It was up almost 10% or more than 10% at one point before it came right back down. I'm going to break down why this happened, what caused this to happen during earnings, and what you should be looking out for in the future. Now, before I break anything down about all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things real quick. Firstly, I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. And finally, don't forget about the Moomoo link, which is down below in the description. We sign up for Moomoo with the link down below and put in $100 into the account. You are guaranteed 5 free stocks plus a $100 cash reward. The offer ends very soon, in just a couple of weeks. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. All right, so NIO is just barely down right now, and it was actually up for a large part of today. And NIO got this very big push up in the morning. It almost hit $9 a share before coming right back down. And that was very awesome to witness. But the question is, why did this happen? What happened during earnings? So to start us off, NIO lost 36 cents a share adjusted, while revenue rose 7.7% to 1.55 billion. Now, please remember that NIO had a pretty decent quarter for Q1. They actually had 31,000 EVs sold. Wasn't it wasn't like way better than Q4, but it still was pretty good. They barely met the expectation of their forecast of 31 to 33,000 EVs. And then on top of that, the outlook for NIO is still very positive for the second half of 2023. But you have to remember, we're going to be seeing not the strongest Q2 from them. So after Q2, NIO is saying things are going to get much better for them. And they're saying they're going to deliver about 23 to 25,000 vehicles in Q2. And they're expecting the revenue of 1.27 billion to be actually about 1.36 billion, down 9 to 15% regardless from a year prior. They're also saying that EPS may actually widen a bit in terms of the loss. So the loss may not be good for them. It may get a little bit worse just for Q2. So we're expecting not the strongest Q2 for them. But NIO said something else that helped it pump. NIO announced that the ES6, the new generational model, should be seeing 10,000 sales alone, just this model, in July. So they're expecting a big comeback starting around June to July. A huge comeback is coming. They're saying they're going to be getting lots of sales, lots of deliveries. They're saying the second half is going to be very strong. And they said at some point in the second half, NIO is going to give us a 20,000 delivery month. They're expecting it. They're very optimistic and they're very positive. Now, that's some big news because if NIO can maintain 20,000 deliveries every single month, and they could pull that off for a year on average, they're going to meet William Lee Bin's target of over 200. It's going to be over 250,000 or like close to that. That's going to be crazy, and I think NIO could see that in the future, and they're going to be raising the bar. Now, what's interesting about NIO is when it has hard times, when the company struggles, it has a tendency of giving us some good numbers later on. Remember what happened during the lockdowns? NIO didn't do well, and then we saw a big surge in their sales. Well, I'm hoping for the same thing for Q3 to Q4 of this year. Now, we only got 6,000 deliveries in May, but we're expecting a big increase later on. Many of NIO's competitors also saw similar numbers, but Li Auto is doing very well. Some of them are doing very well, like BYD, Li Auto, even Tesla was just killing it in China. There's a lot of competition, and this is not a great time for NIO. But NIO is telling us to expect a big comeback by the second half of the year and as soon as this month. On top of this, looking at their sales, we have more specific numbers from the financial statements. Sales for the first quarter decreased about 0.2% from the first quarter of 2022, small tiny decrease. Their margin was 5.1% in 2023 compared to 18.1% the first quarter of 2022. So very bad margins for them, but it is still okay. That's why NIO is not cutting prices, which is still hurting them. Going forward, their revenue, once again, increased 7.7% in the first quarter relative to the last one, right? On top of that, profit was just okay. It was a decrease of eight, excuse me, 88.8% versus a decrease of 73.9%, so very close to the previous quarter. And besides that, their margins are just not that great. Net loss, if anything, showed an increase overall. And still, the company is once again still burning some cash, not doing as great, but they do have a big cash reserve of 5.5 billion US dollars worth of money. So overall, NIO has a lot of cash at hand it could use to better their expansions, better their productions, and better their products to incentivize more sales. But because NIO's margins are not that great, NIO is incentivized to not be raising their prices, which does hurt them. Despite this, NIO is saying, don't worry, don't worry. Yes, it's going to be hard in Q2. They admit that. Q2 may not be that great. But they're saying by Q3, expect a comeback. By the second half, expect a big comeback. And expect a 20,000 delivery month, which I think is very possible, especially with the new ES6. All right, so now let's talk about the share price. What happened to NIO after this? So it was very volatile in the pre-market, just going back and forth. Not really anything big happened. But on the 1 hour time frame, right? One of the things I warned you guys about was how we had this inverse head and shoulders pattern that was forming. And I was hoping NIO would reach this imbalance at 8.61. That was my target. I was saying NIO should break that. But I was always open-minded. I did not promise that this would happen. I told you guys I was leaning more bullish. I told you guys to be very careful. It's very important to just be cautious of earnings, right? And it was very important to look at that. We had this inverse head and shoulders. It formed, and NIO got this nice pump afterwards. Now, the pump did not last, unfortunately, because earnings were not that great. But guidance tells us that there is a good chance NIO will improve in a couple of months. So it may take a little while. I mean, we could have another month of not somewhere like kind of sideways action, but NIO is going to be heavily dictated by the Fed and what's about to happen next week. It's going to be huge. So just make it a couple more weeks, and then by the time we get to that July period, things might start to improve for NIO big time. And we're not that far from July. I mean, we're just a couple of weeks away. By the time their numbers come out, it may be much better, especially for the new ES6. If NIO sales start increasing, we could see the company make a big comeback like they're telling us. So there is still some optimism, a lot of optimism for the second half. I'm really hoping things improve from then. Now, NIO got this sell-off afterwards, after it got this pump. So I was correct about us getting like a pump, but I didn't expect it to just like pump and then dump right after. I was hoping that it would pump and just try to hold above $8. Instead, it pumped and came back down, but it didn't really crash to a new like super low level because we're only down 0.6% for the day overall. If you think about it, we're still very flat compared to where we were yesterday. And overall, we might just see NIO continue to consolidate, trade sideways for a little bit longer before some bigger move comes. Now, if you look at SPY, big pump before this thing came down. It failed once again, made its way down just below 430. Same thing with the QQQ. Up to 357 thanks to Tesla, and many of the big caps came right back down. Tesla pumped in the pre-market and the after hours yesterday, and then it came right back down as time went on. Overall, holding up nicely. So the market, getting this pump and dump structure caused NIO to do the same thing, but NIO got a nice pump in the morning, and a lot of money could have been made, especially if you had bought calls like just at open, or if you even held them, you still could have made a lot of profit on them. Not financial advice, not saying you should have done that, but I'm just saying I wasn't entirely correct about NIO holding these higher levels, but I was right about us getting a big move to the upside. It did come just temporarily. It didn't last, which isn't that great, but it's okay because earnings is telling us that maybe NIO won't do that well for Q2, but the future of the company still has lots and lots of hope as we approach the second half of this year. And they're telling us things are going to get much better. So I don't really like NIO's margins, but I'm hoping for a big boost in sales, especially with the new model coming out. And maybe a lot of consumers are waiting for the new model. Once deliveries start to spike up, things could improve for the company big time. But until then, I just wanted to talk about this. NIO is likely going to get stuck in this range again, but just be patient, and I still have lots of optimism for this company. All right, so thank you for listening. Have a great day. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you, and peace out.